Hello, dear listeners, and welcome back to my cozy little corner of the internet. When we finished Sirensong, we left Jasper and Eric, who were processing everything that had happened, whilst feeling uneasy that it was far from over. Meanwhile, the real red-haired woman was revealed, and she isn't done with the boys yet. The boys' journey continues in Sirensong Encore. So, grab your favourite beverage, sit back, relax, and I shall begin. Chapter 1. Taken. Jasper let out a sigh as he looked out of his bedroom window. The school now finished for the summer. He was splitting his time between homework, practicing magic, and just hanging around and having fun. It had been a couple of weeks since the Siren Song incident, and Jasper was finally starting to feel normal again after the strange events. His mother had been keeping a close eye on him, but he had reassured her that he was fine. She seemed to listen to him, but she was just going to do what every mother did and worry non-stop about him. It felt nice knowing that she was looking out for him. She had called into the school the morning after the ship incident and explained that Jasper had come down with a strain of summer flu and wouldn't be able to attend classes. His teachers were understanding and sent well wishes along with homework, which wasn't too strenuous. He was able to complete it easily enough, though having work to focus on helped him to not focus so much on the strange events that seemed to have altered his life. "Hey, Jasper, are you coming?" A familiar voice spoke up. Jasper looked behind him and saw Eric there. His mother was kind enough to let him stay for as long as he needed to. Eric felt a little uneasy about it at first, and didn't want to impose, but Rosemary insisted, and when she insisted, there was no point arguing with her. "Coming to what?" "We were going to go to the beach, remember?" "You were going to help me build something," Eric answered, a look of disappointment on his face. It was something he had been looking forward to for a while, but he wanted to wait until Jasper felt ready to go out again. "That's right," Jasper exclaimed as he slapped his forehead with the palm of his hand. "I completely forgot. I'm sorry." Eric smiled at him. "Hey, it's okay. I know you had a lot on your mind after everything." The redhead spoke kindly to his friend. "I'll get my things and wait for you outside." With that, he had left the room. Jasper looked at himself in the mirror before he walked over to his wardrobe and pulled out a large bag. It was heavy, but he shouldered the burden well. Once he had everything, he went downstairs and met Eric outside. "Shall we go?" he asked, the other boy eagerly nodding, and they walked down the street towards the beach. As they walked, Eric started talking about things they could do over the summer. Jasper wasn't really paying much attention. Instead, Eric's words just faded into the background. He had wanted to listen, but now all his work was done, and his mother told him to take a little break from magic. He didn't have much to focus on, and his thoughts about the incident rushed to the surface. Jasper had tried to move on. He'd even tried to get back to normal. However, despite his best efforts, he found it difficult. His friends from the school paper had stopped by to check up on him and tell him not to worry about not having a story. He thanked them, but had wanted to change the subject. They had told him that Mel hadn't been seen in school for a couple of weeks. They believed that Mel was taken out of school, but he didn't want to know about that and had always quickly changed the subject. They had asked why he and Mel weren't speaking, and he refused to answer them, telling them he didn't want to talk about it. That excuse could only work for so long, so he had avoided his friends altogether, which in hindsight he realised that it wasn't such a great idea. Jasper stopped and quickly looked at Eric as soon as his voice came back into focus. "Sorry, Eric. What did you say?" "I said it's great you're finally stepping out again. I was worried you'd be a hermit forever." Jasper laughed weakly at that. "Well, I can't stay inside my whole life, and I did promise to help you out with this project of yours. Now I really am worried about you. It's not like you to keep a promise you make," Eric lightly remarked, which earned him a sharp dig in the arm. "Ow! Seriously? All those other times I never explicitly said the words, 'I promise,'" he retorted. Was it childish? Yes, but it was also true. Besides, it gives me something else to focus on, and it would get my mom off my case quicker. Hopefully before this all blows over. "Speaking of things blowing over, how are you holding up after everything with Mel?" Eric asked, trying to broach the subject carefully. He remembered all too well the hurt and betrayal Jasper went through. Admittedly, Eric was angry with her. She had caused several deaths. However, despite that, she was still a stranger to him. But to Jasper, she was a friend, so the wound cut much deeper. Jasper looked down. "I'm fine," he answered, a little too abruptly. But the truth was, he wasn't fine. Her betrayal had cut him deep, and it was also raw to him. He still had no idea why she did it, and a part of him wasn't even sure he wanted to know. He didn't want to think about Mel. At least, not yet. Do you think maybe we could change the subject? He politely requested as he looked up at Eric, giving him a forced smile. Eric nodded. He didn't like the forced smile he was given, but he didn't want to push. The two carried on walking in silence. They had passed the cafes, which were full of regulars as well as tourists who were there to enjoy a summer vacation. He just hoped that the beach wouldn't be too crowded. When they got there, they saw locals and tourists sunbathing while children ran in the sand and built sandcastles. Eric and Jasper walked further along to a quieter area of the beach. Once the shouts and laughter of the children died down, they stopped and placed their backpacks down. You remember to bring them, right? Eric asked as Jasper nodded and opened his backpack to reveal an assortment of pebbles. Shall we get to work? Jasper asked as Eric nodded eagerly. The two found a space on the beach, not too close to the shore, and not somewhere that the pebbles could be knocked over. Jasper emptied all the pebbles onto the sand, and the two began arranging them and building them up. Hey, has your mom and the Coast Guard found any of the other fishermen? Eric asked, pausing for a moment. He knew that none of them survived, but it would be nice to find them so their families could be notified. Jasper solemnly shook his head. My mom had her team searching for several days. She went out to look herself, but they couldn't find a trace of them. Eric nodded and lowered his head. I understand, and I know they're working hard. I just wish that we could find them. He uttered, trying to keep it together, but the guilt was still eating away at him. It was all my fault. They died because of me. Hey, don't blame yourself. Jasper spoke up as he put his arm round Eric's shoulder. You didn't kill them. He wanted to say that Mel was responsible, but the words were stuck in his throat. It was almost as if his body and mind didn't want him to utter the truth. Instead, he simply fell silent. Eric smiled at the gesture. He knew that Jasper was just trying to comfort him, though he still felt guilty about it. He had nightmares about it almost every night. However, he didn't tell Jasper about it. He had gone through enough already without his problems being added to it. Thanks, Jasper. It means a lot to me. Jasper smiled back at him. Any time. Now come on, let's get this finished. The two got back to work organising and piling up the pebbles, so that it resembled a makeshift tower. When they had finished, they stood back and admired their handiwork. Not too shabby, Jasper remarked with a grin, feeling proud of their accomplishment. Eric, however, was staring at it with a frown. I feel like there's something missing, he pondered as he examined the monument more closely. How so? Jasper questioned, staring at Eric as though he was a madman. I think it looks fine. Not exactly the nicest looking thing, but it does the job. Eric turned to look back at Jasper. I'm serious, he admonished his friend as he let out a sigh. We just need one more thing to show that it's to do with fishermen, and I think I have an idea of where to get it. He took a step back and started to run back up and down the beach. Hey, wait! Jasper called out to Eric, causing the redhead to stop and turn around. Do you want me to come with you? Eric gently shook his head. Thanks for the offer, but I'll be fine, Eric answered as he started to run again. I'll be back soon. Just make a sign or something, he added before he disappeared over a sand dune. Jasper shook his head and reached into his bag to pull some materials out for a sign. Eric was soon back in town and had visited the different shops on the street. However, they didn't seem to have what he wanted. That didn't stop him from continuing his search, and eventually he entered the bait shop at the end of the road. The inside was small and was like any other small business run in a seaside town. The walls were full of different types of hooks and lures. The back wall had large nets, though Eric had a feeling that it would be too big for the monument. No, he needed something smaller scale. He walked past the counter, trying not to gag at the sight of the containers of live bait. He knew that sometimes it was better to use live bait to catch fish, but it wasn't what he had in mind either. He picked out a hook and then looked at the different lures until one lure caught his eye. It was in the shape of a flying fish, and it was a silvery colour that shimmered slightly in a certain light. Smiling, Eric picked that one out and took it to the counter. The store clerk looked at the hook and the lure. Is this your first time fishing? He asked Eric curiously, because if it is, you'll be better off with live bait. He gestured towards the containers. Eric tried not to gag at the sight of them, and he politely shook his head. No thanks, he stammered as he backed away a little. The hook and the lure would do just fine. The clerk simply hummed in response and told Eric the total price of the hook and the lure. Eric paid for it quickly. He just wanted to get away from the live bait, as it unnerved him. He grabbed the bag with his purchases in and made his way towards the door. "You have a nice day now," the clerk called out to him as he walked out the store. Once he was back outside, Eric heaved a huge sigh of relief. Why would anyone keep creepy crawlies like that? He shuddered. The whole thing made his skin crawl. Still, he was happy with his purchase, and decided to walk back towards the beach where Jasper was waiting. Eric paused and looked around as he heard something. It sounded quite faint, though. He shook his head, believing it to just be his imagination or his mind playing tricks on him. He took a few more steps and stopped as he heard it again, but louder this time. "Now I know I heard that," he muttered to himself as he looked around nervously. "Did she come here and do her own dirty work?" Eric shook his head at the thought. No way would she do that. She never got her hands dirty, and when she could convince others to do the work for her. Still, the voice sounded soft and sweet. It was enticing him, but he felt like he could resist it. He lowered his head and gritted his teeth as he kept walking and pushed his way through it. He could do it. He just needed to be strong. He soon stopped when he heard another voice joining in. This one was louder and stronger. He groaned as he held his head, finding it harder to resist. Instinctively, he found his body turning around and walking in the other direction, the direction the singing was coming from. He tried to resist and pull back, but the harder he resisted, the harder the song tugged at him. He felt like a puppet, and the singer was the puppet master pulling at his strings. Eric kept walking until he reached an alleyway. His eyelids felt heavy, and they began to close as he could feel himself drifting. Before he could fall to the ground, multiple pairs of hands reached out and grabbed him, pulling him into the alley. The bag he was holding fell to the ground. That's the end of today's episode. Poor Eric. Just when you're starting to get settled, someone comes along and takes him. Who are his kidnappers? Where did they take him? Do they work for the mysterious red-haired lady? What will Jasper do when he finds out that Eric is missing? Tune in to the next episode to find out.